Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I have another interview for you today. I got to sit down with Tom Moser to talk about his newest movie, Double Blind, available now on Amazon Prime. This is a really cool interview, also because I got to talk to Chris Showerman, who was the lead in Double Blind, who was an awesome guy, like one of the most positive people in the world, one of those people you just talk to and you feel better about everything, even if you don't really know the guy. I mean, I just did one interview with him. But Tom was also awesome to talk to, also a super positive guy, just another one of those guys who gets things done. He gives a lot of insight into his thought process on getting into the movie, how the movie came about, and his working relationship with the actors to form this movie to kind of play for their strengths, but also give them work to do they haven't done yet, which I think you kind of get the best of all worlds when you approach a movie like that. So enjoy the interview. Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with Tom Moser to talk about his new movie, Double Blind. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great.
Thanks for coming on. Sorry about the fumble that I'm going to cut out, so I shouldn't mention it, but I almost said Blind Spot, and I'm like, I know that's not his movie, and I literally just watched it half an hour ago, so
okay,
it's like...
okay.
Yeah, so you directed this, correct?
Yeah. Directed and I guess co-wrote, I kind of came up with a story with a friend of mine.
Oh, very cool. Before we get there, though, the one boilerplate thing I do like to do is go back to the beginning of a creative person's journey and kind of talk about, like, what was your spark? How'd you know you wanted to get into movies, become a director, that kind of thing?
Oh, gosh. I guess, I grew up in a small town in Georgia, and there wasn't at the time, like, a lot of creative outlets. So, but I was interested in, I draw and, write and do that kind of thing. And when I discovered that this was a job that you could do, that's basically it. Like, I don't know how to do anything else. So, that was just in the cards, I guess, is just pursuing some kind of creative career.
Being from a small town where maybe there wasn't much film industry around, if any at all, when you kind of told your friends and family, like, oh, hey, I think I'm going to pursue becoming a movie director, was it like, no, you need to get an accounting degree and get a job? Or was it like, oh, that's awesome, go for it?
Yeah, it was the former. It was like, oh, you can't make a living like that. And I'm like, and the one thing I tell people now, and kids today have it a little bit easier because it's, everything's a lot more accessible than it was back then, is, I'm like, well, they don't know anything about it. And so, you shouldn't listen to people that don't know anything about the subject that you're talking about. So that was sort of my philosophy, I guess, moving forward.
That's smart, because a lot of people, especially if you were on the younger side, you might have been like, you're right. Like, I wasn't born in LA. I don't know how to get into this.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of people aren't.
Right. Yeah.
You go where it is.
Seems like no one's actually from a place like LA or even New York City. Everyone migrates there. Okay, so did you go to film school, the whole traditional route, or did you just kind of pick up a camera and try to put some projects together?
No, I went to FSU film school for a year, and then I transferred to UCF, which is the University of Central Florida, and actually I did animation and film production there. And then, I actually lived in Florida for about 10 years, and I was mostly working in the animation industry.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And that's actually kind of what I do now, really, is, I'm a storyboard artist for animated TV.
Oh, very cool. Were you doing features, commercials, animatics?
Well, then I was doing a lot of web series. So it was the .com boom. There were a lot of outlets for doing animated web series. And that's actually there was a series that actually prompted me to move out to LA. That it was a show that aired on VH1. If you remember VH1.
I
do. Does it still exist? Actually, don't know.
I think it technically does, but I don't think it's what it used to be.
Okay. And then so, I was pursuing just whatever I got into. I do a lot of visual effects work and animation work, and pretty much, whatever is there that I can do to make a living.
That's awesome. I'm super interested in animation. I know that's not what the whole point of this is, but So do you do traditional or the CG animation or kind of
Traditional,
anything?
yeah. So I worked on a show called Big Mouth on Netflix.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so I did that for a few seasons, and I'm currently working on Duncanville, which is on Fox.
Oh, very cool. That's kind of similar in style to Family Guy, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's an Amy Poehler show. So yeah, it's really fun. It's a great show. I enjoy doing that one.
That's really cool to be able to do these fun kind of zany comedy shows that have huge followings too, I
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah. Oh, Big Mouth was crazy. Like Big Mouth is very, very popular. It's quite the following. So that's been exciting. Is working on something that I don't have to explain to people. What it is.
Right. So were you a storyboard artist for both of those as well?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. How does that? We'll get to Double Blind. Sorry, just
No, okay. Whatever you want to talk about, man.
how does the storyboard thing really? Do they just give you the script and they say what's your vision, or do they say, hey, we're thinking, maybe show the hero character's face here, and then the camera will do this, and
Well, they basically give you a script. You have a team. I work in primetime sitcoms, so it's about 3 to 4 people, and they give you the script. They sort of break it down. It's like, here's your section, and you just and it's yours to do. You thumb it out. You work with the director. Kind of rough it out and go, here's kind of what I'm thinking, and they give you notes, and then you do the boards based on that. And so I did, we do, a team will do about 3 episodes a season, depending on the number of episodes per season. But yeah, it's very creative and hard, and, but very rewarding, when you see the scenes. Like I got to do on this season, a couple of really great action scenes, which is sort of, I prefer that over kind of talking head scenes that you would, get in a lot of animation. So yeah, I'm excited about seeing those.
seeing it come fully to life. Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. So you primarily work in animation, it sounds like.
Yeah.
How did you get into Double Blind, which is not animation for people who haven't seen it?
Yeah. Well, that was, I have a lot of, I'm in LA. I've been around live action. I worked in visual effects for like 15 years, and in fact, that's how I met, Chris Showerman, who was a co-producer, co-writer, and co-star of the movie. I was working with him on a film, and we just kind of wanted to do a project together, and basically the whole thing came about with just me and my wife and a core group of friends going, let's make a movie. We've got this amount of money. We've got these resources. What can we do? And the thing that I wanted to do was kind of a genre film, but in the style of French New Wave. Which is why the film's in black and white. It's all handheld. That was all kind of a deliberate choice of doing that kind of thing that you would normally see as sort of a simple drama, but doing it like, we were like, oh, what about a spy movie? And so that was it. And we kind of sat down and hashed out a story and a script, and we were like, well, let's do this thing.
That's really cool that you just knew the right people. You just had been working hard and create a movie from scratch just based on that.
It was a combination of it was a lot of luck. It was a lot of, like, we have 30 actors in the movie, and we didn't audition a single person. Like, those are all friends of ours.
Wow.
Who just loaned a day, or an afternoon, just to help us out and be in the movie.
Yeah, how was the collaborative writing process on that? Because you kind of started with the actor, so did you build the character around Chris?
Yeah. Yep. So, well, it was around my wife, our producing partner Jen, and Chris, and that was, so we knew that was going to be our basic, our core cast, and it's sort of, so just built a story around what we had, basically. We built it around our resources.
How did the idea to make it be about pharmaceutical companies come into it? Because it seems very like out of the headlines.
It was, I don't know, it was sort of serendipitous. We just, it was again a thing like, well, what do we have, the resources, what can we do? An international conglomerate of some kind. Pharmaceuticals seems like, big pharma, like, well, they seem, evil. They would be good villains.
Yeah, you nailed it. That was cool, and I don't want to ask too many specifics about the pharmaceutical angles. I don't want to give away the end of your movie.
Sure.
But it was really cool how the whole thing, I mean, it's very fast-paced, and then it really keeps you on the edge of your seat, like literally to the last minute.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so it was very well paced, very well thought out, and I liked that there was things toward the end I did not see coming. So that was cool.
Good, great.
Yeah, I was definitely along for the ride, and I had got to talk to Chris like middle of last year, and he's like the nicest guy in the world. Yeah.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how nice he is.
So when this came across, when I got the email, like, oh, do you want to do interviews for this movie, Chris Showerman? I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. It's cool. He's getting a leading role.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was great to work with him. I had, when I first met him on a film that he directed, called Radio America, and it's a great movie if you can find it, and check it out. And I did visual effects for him for that movie, and he's the kind of guy that just when you meet him, you become instantly he's your best friend. So he's just that kind of guy.
Yeah, I got that vibe. That's very cool. So you mentioned visual effects a few times now, and I know it's kind of jumping back out of order, but how did you get into that?
It was just a lot of it came from my animation background. Being just sort of having a creative eye, I guess, like being able to, like in film school, I was one of a handful of people who could do that. And so when you've got you're surrounded by filmmakers and they all need something done on their films. And, when we all came out to LA, a good friend of mine is Dan Myrick, who directed the Blair Witch Project. And so he would need work for his films, and then that would sort of branch out, and I just built that into a career.
It's really cool. So do you find the VFX and the animation skills kind of go hand in hand almost?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities in how you approach it. It's all I sort of look at it as just a very like flat layers of everything. So I just sort of break everything down that way. Animation's the same thing. And just my animation skills lend themselves to being able to do like a lot of movement, pretty naturally. So I'm, able to kind of pull stuff off, and then studying like color design and things like that helps.
Yeah. Okay. Is it kind of being able to think of a 3D space, even though you're staring at a 2D monitor? Is that kind of the idea?
Mm. Yeah, that's it. And I kind of have like I've developed the skill to really be able to break down something that looks like it would be complicated, and kind of make it approachable, or at least accessible, in a way that can be done on, in a reasonable amount of time, which is of course everything visual effects now. They want it done tomorrow because, it's all computers. And so, I just hit, C for composite. That's all.
Right. Yeah. That's funny because I work in web design. It's kind of the same thing. It's well, can't you just think about what it looks like and, press enter? It's like, well, no. That's funny. What kind of software do you use for that?
Well, for visual effects, I'm pretty much After Effects. That's mostly what I use. A lot of plugins that I have for that. And animation is, we use Storyboard Pro and Toon Boom. They're both Toon Boom. Harmony and Storyboard Pro is kind of our main tools for that.
It's so cool now that like industry leading software you can just get for your home computer, and it's really reasonable.
Oh, it's amazing. Like when I was a kid, like the only way to make animation was with a film camera.
Right, and doing 24 drawings per second.
Yeah, we had
killing
no
yourself.
digital anything, and it sucked. nowadays, it's like you can do it on your phone. You can do it, it's so amazing.
That's really cool, and it's refreshing for someone on the outside who likes creating stuff to know that you can, like Toon Boom. I could, when we're done here, I could buy it, get the CD key, have it
Yeah.
installed inside 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's no excuses in terms of the tools. Like, back then you couldn't, you had to, if you wanted to film anything, it was on film. If you wanted to edit anything, it was on film. When I was in film school, we edited on a Steenbeck, which is a flatbed film editor, and we spliced the film together with tape.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody who makes digital movies, and when they went to school, it was still digital. Sorry, this cat knows when I press record on things. But they were saying that learning to do the traditional way really helped them, even though they were working in digital. Do you find that's true?
I do, yeah. And I'm not going to be one of these people. It's like, oh, you need to go back and do it old school so you can learn to do it the right way. But, it definitely helps understand, like, just physically what you're doing, because, as a designer, as you are, you think your brain works a certain way, and, and it sort of exists physically in your brain. So that helps us kind of have that analog mentality about it. But it's like, if I had to go back to drawing on paper or cutting film, I would just do something else.
You're like, okay, I've seen the other side, I can't do this. Yeah. So for your drawing, what is it, like a Wacom tablet? And
a Cintiq.
Cintiq, okay.
Yeah, so it's a drawing screen.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. All right, that makes a lot of sense, instead of having the tablet aside and you got to match it up.
Oh yeah. No, I've had those. They're fine, but nothing's quite like the drawing screen. Like, it's amazing. Like, I can't believe this technology exists.
And again, that's another thing, like the software. Like, you could run to Best Buy and you can grab one for a few $100, and you're going. That's very cool.
You can do it on your iPad now. Like the iPad and the pencil. That's amazing. Like,
that's true. Yeah, a buddy of mine, he does really great illustrations and stuff. Like, it looks like it's hand inked, and he does it just on a surface with a little pen that came with it.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. Like,
yeah.
What a time to be alive as a creative person.
Right. It's that barrier to entry almost doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of a double-edged sword from what I gather, though, because the accessibility is there, but it's there for everybody. So then your pool of competition is massive.
Yeah, I run into that a lot, because working in primetime TV, there's a lot of artists aspiring to do that. And, I just say, look, your competition it's other professionals. It's not people, it's kind of like with anything creative, 95% of the people out there just aren't at a professional level. You're not really worried about those people. You're worried about the people who are at your skill level or better. And so that's what you need to aspire to do. And if you do that, there's not a lot of competition. Like, our industry needs good artists. There's a shortage of those. There's so many shows being made, which is really great. Like, with Netflix and Apple TV and Amazon, all these studios that are producing animation. Like, it's a boom out there right now.
Yeah, that's good to know. It's interesting. Is that something that you saw take an even further spike because of COVID?
It did, yeah, because the studios, when that all began, we didn't miss a beat. Like, live action shut down completely, and they just sent us home with our Cintiqs and our computers, and we're like, just keep working. And so, I haven't missed a day, like, and everything that got green lighted for about 6 months there was all animation.
Yeah, that's what I was reading in, like, Variety, is that the one thing we can still make is animation and do voice work. So let's go.
Yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome.
And I love animation, so I'm glad to see all these these great new shows that are coming out.
Yeah, and it's really exciting too when shows kind of try to find ways to almost reinvent the style. Like, you know, they're doing the same thing as everybody, but they're just kind of putting their own little twist on it. And everything just
Oh
has
yeah,
that.
yeah. Like right now, probably the top of the heap is Rick and Morty, and you know, I have friends who work on that show, and what they're doing is just it's just mind blowing.
Yeah, I feel like that's doing kind of what Game of Thrones did for fantasy. Is people who like, I don't really watch cartoons. I'm an adult now. Like Rick and Morty kind of transcends that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
I
think
mean, you know,
Big Mouth did too, to a degree.
oh yeah, well, Big Mouth, you know, there's a lot of primetime sitcom animation is really not for kids. Like some of it is, you know, my show is kind of safe for kids. Bob's Burgers, but you know, like Rick and Morty, definitely that's a hard R. That
Oh
show,
yeah,
Solar Opposites. Um, so you know, the Big Mouth is, you know, that's definitely not for kids, even though it's about kids.
right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. You don't want a 14-year-old watching that.
no, yeah, I have a 15-year-old, and I'm like, it's about you, but you can't watch
Yeah, give it a few years.
it. Yeah.
That's funny. So your storyboard work and the VFX work, and you obviously understand what needs to come across onto the screen. Did that really serve you as a director for Double Blind, or have you directed anything else?
Well, I did. So I've done live action before, and this was kind of, I guess, the the culmination, I guess, of my live action experience at the time. Um, so you know, I did about 10 years ago. I did an exercise. I had heard about this guy that did this thing. It was 12 short films in 12 months. So it was just like, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm just shoot 12 things in 12 months. And so I did that, and and a lot of the people that I worked with and just sort of gathered, you know, by the seat of my pants at the time, went on to work with me on Double Blind. And you know, and I had done editing. I've done, you know, with visual effects and everything. I'd done lighting and all that stuff. So it was really just combining all of those things into one big project.
That's it's awesome that the skills have that crossover and stuff, and that you can take the visualizations from animation, bring them to live action, or things that you learn directing live action probably help influence how you frame things in animation, I'd
Oh yeah,
imagine.
for sure. Yeah, it's all storytelling. You know, it's all visual storytelling.
Yeah, it's just incredible that you're taking on all of these different jobs and varying mediums and just kind of melding it all.
Yeah, I love it. Like if you had told, you know, 10-year-old me, like, here's what you're gonna be doing, like I would just you know, would have blown my mind.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good thing you didn't listen to people way back then.
No, not listening to people was sort of got me in a lot of trouble for a lot of my life.
Right. So the movie Double Blind doesn't have a ton of special effects in it. Was that
No,
by design? Like you're like, I'm already doing triple duty. Let's keep this grounded, or was it just the nature
100%.
of the
Yes.
story?
No,
Okay.
that's exactly right. Yeah, it was because one of the when I did the 12 short films, one of them was a visual effects heavy film, and that was that. I think that whole movie was like 3 minutes, and I'm like, I can't with a feature film. Like, we're just gonna have to do it old school. Like, I think the only visual effects that are in Double Blind are a couple of muzzle flashes, and we replaced the license plate on the hero car, and that's it. Um, because I didn't basically want to be working on this for the rest of my life. Like one of my big influences actually in making this film and letting me know that like shooting a movie like this on, you know, essentially no money with a bunch of friends was possible was a movie called Monster, which was Gareth Edwards' film that he did, and he had for that movie he had a crew of 2 people. It was him and the sound guy, and that was it. Like, you know, it was all natural lighting. It was all just, you know, available light, a crew of 2 people, and they just, you know, shot by the seat of their pants. But he basically locked himself in a room for 6 months to do the visual effects for that movie, and so was not something I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to make this as realistic and practical as possible.
Yeah, it never watching it, it never occurred to me that, oh, there's not a lot of visual effects in this because it doesn't matter. It's not the story, but just knowing your background, it's like, hey, it kind of would have made sense, but it makes further sense that,
Yeah.
you'd still be doing it.
Yeah, and I did have friends tell me, like, you want to make a movie that, sort of plays to your strengths. Do one that's, visual effects heavy, because not everybody can do that sort of thing. And I'm just like, it's so much work. And, and down the road, I might do something like that just to kind of, have it stand out a little bit. But yeah, this time around, I just really wanted to get something that I knew I could finish in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, that makes sense. How was the well, I guess you had the writing and the shooting and then the post production. How was that timeline?
It was 4 months of weekends for the shoot. It was just whenever we could get people together. It kind of, like I said, we just got lucky in a lot of ways. There's a restaurant scene, sort of I guess a kind of a honky tonk restaurant scene where they're running away, and that was just Chris and I just driving out into the desert to find a place, and we saw. I think it was the first restaurant we saw was just this mom and pop empty place, and we were like, hey, we're shooting a movie. Do you mind if we just come in here and film? And he was like, yeah. He goes, there's nobody here on Tuesdays. Come on in. And that was it. So, and we just had the place to ourselves for a day. We just got lucky like that in a lot of ways. A lot of people worked at places that made great locations. All of our friends, all the friends that are in the movie are all actors. A friend of mine is just a brilliant composer and sound engineer. Another friend of mine was looking to edit his first feature. So, just great people, all contributing. It just would not have been possible without that.
That's really cool. It's also really cool and inspiring in a lot of ways that you guys shot it on weekends.
Yeah.
You fit it around day jobs and you fit it around busy schedules and you just made it work.
Yeah. And a lot of it was writing parts for friends, just writing parts that I knew that they could play, that they could do in a knockout in a day or an afternoon or an evening, and have them be in something, and and have it serve the movie.
So was your script fully written, fully developed, and you changed on the fly, or did you just kind of? Oh, okay. I was going to ask.
There wasn't. We definitely wanted to really lock it down as much as possible, just because we knew that that our filming style was going to be so fast, and we didn't use. There was only one scene in the entire film in which we used a light, and that was because it was at night. We shot in Wrightwood. I don't know how familiar you are with the LA area, but it's like a little mountain town.
Okay.
And there's essentially at night. That's it. Like, it's pitch black, and so we had to light up a scene. It was the porch scene at the cabin, but that was it. Everything else was available light, where we could, and that allowed us to shoot really quickly. And in some places, like in the finale scene, I don't want to give too much away, but we had that location we had for 2 hours, and so yeah, it was nuts. And so there just wasn't any time to kind of play around and sort of improvise and figure the script out. And other than wildly cutting scenes down to be shorter, that was about the only script editing we did on the shoot. Everything else we tried to, we spent as much time as we could, getting the script as good as we could. There's nothing's gonna be perfect, but to get it as tight as we could, just because of our shooting style was going to be so insane.
So you had everything planned out so your time was super efficiently used.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Having one light, that's impressive.
Yeah, and we, like, I would take it around with us just to have it, but we ended up really not ever needing it. And black and white also helps in that case too, because it's very forgiving in terms of color balance.
Mm-hmm.
So you can mix indoor lighting with sunlight, and you're just not going to get any kind of issues with it.
Was that just something? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I mean that was it was deliberate, but it ended up helping us in that way. Because French New Wave is black and white, and so it was always going to be black and white. It just ended up helping us in a practical sense like that.
It was just a nice bonus that it took a huge aspect of setting up shots out of it.
Yes, exactly.
Did you have to do a lot of like contrast balancing in whatever editing software you used, or was it all kind of meshed there?
Well, I shot flat, which is in cinematography terms, I used a Blackmagic cinema camera. It was the 2.5K at the time, and it allows you to shoot log flat, so it gives you the most latitude that you can get, really, or as much latitude as possible when you're filming, and that gives you a lot of room to kind of play around with contrast in post. And the post was done in Resolve in terms of the color, even though it's not color. You're doing a lot of contrasts and crushing blacks and fixing exposure issues.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's fascinating to hear how people make independent movies just happen, because there's so many. It seems so insurmountable to start, but then if you just break it down and take it one day at a time, it's totally doable.
Yeah, and this was a movie that, because we were spending so little money on it, and that was all on purpose. We just wanted to go, look, we're playing around, we're experimenting with the style, we're experimenting with the story, we're spending time with friends. And if something comes of it, great. But, at the end of the day, we've done a project that we're proud of, and it didn't really cost us anything. We've all made that money back, So, it's a bonus to be able to sit here and talk about the film with you, and have it be on Amazon Prime is great. That's more than we imagined. We weren't thinking that far ahead.
Right.
And so, so to people out there, I'm like, yeah, man, like I was telling a friend of mine, I would shoot a movie on an iPhone tomorrow. Like, it would just, that's what you've got. If that's what you've got, that's what you've got. If you don't have good sound equipment, make a silent movie. Just do whatever you've got. Like I would say the one downside to LA, to be honest with you, is everybody has seen all these locations. Like if I lived somewhere where it snowed, or if I lived somewhere with like lush green forests, man, like you could make a movie that like nobody really sees those locations a lot.
That's a good point. Yeah. A lot of indie films coming out of LA, it looks like LA.
They all look the same, and do a movie with, we never see movies with, when I was in film school, my films all starred either old people or little kids, because every film school film has people that are 21 to 22 years old, playing everything. And I'm like, yeah, we've all seen that, So it was sort of my deliberate choices back then to make a movie that kind of was a little bit different.
It's really good tips, I think. Well, Tom, I really appreciate you coming on. I have like a billion more questions all over the map: animation, VFX, directing, everything. But I don't want to. Oh man, sorry. But I don't want to eat up your whole day. So, the movie's on Amazon Prime now, as you mentioned, which is awesome. Do you have a website or socials you want to point people to?
No, just you can find the movie there. That's fine. Like I'm on Facebook, just as me.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on the movie. Came out awesome. So. You're doing something right.
All right, great. Thanks, Adam.
Appreciate it. I'd like to thank Tom one more time for coming on the show to talk to us about his newest movie, Double Blind, which is available now, Amazon Prime Video, included with the price of Prime. So go check it out. Also, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Really helps us grow our audience, helps us know what you're looking for. We have a lot more cool stuff coming your way. If you miss out, make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resources for reviews, recommendations, movies, merchandise, and more. Videos, merchandise, and more. Not really movies, maybe one day. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. And we love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All of our accounts will be found after the show and in the show notes. And on a more personal note, a really good friend and I have an ongoing comedy comic series out right now. It's called Social Studies. It's a slice-of-life comedy comic about the high school experience, all the ridiculousness that goes along with it. We write it like a sitcom, jammed through the prism of the 90s cartoons that we grew up on and have inspired us. And there's 7 issues available now. That's the first chapter. Chapter 1 just wrapped up, so it's a great time to jump on board. We have a crowdfunding campaign coming September 1st, so you can jump on board even easier with that. But all issues are available now at socialstudiescomic.com. Check it out. Thanks.